Hi, I'm Andre Huie. Welcome to another edition of Newsline 360 here on TBC Channel 40. On this edition of Newsline 360, our guest is Janeel Boon. He's an entrepreneur from St. Kitts and Nevis, and we'll be talking to him about his recent visit to Russia, where he participated in the World Youth Fest held in Sochi, Russia. We want to welcome all our viewers on TBC Channel 40, those watching in St. Martin on the Tel TV network, and also those watching on social media and online at tbcplus.live. Janeel, welcome to Newsline 360.
Thanks, Huey. Thanks for having me. And thanks for all the viewers for taking the time out to watch Newsline 360.
All right. Well, you were recently in Russia, and you think about it, Kittitian in Russia. What business do you have been in Russia? Well, let's talk about the opportunity. First of all, how did you get that opportunity?
Firstly, this opportunity came as a piggyback to a previous one I've been on, which is called Young Leaders of America's Initiative back in 2018. And from being on that and being exposed to that, someone else were a part of it from another country saw this opportunity now and say, hey, I think this might be ideal for you, and give it a try, apply, see what's going on. And that I did. And that was like in November, early December 2023, and early February, I saw that email say, hey, you were accepted. Let's send us a passport bio.
And how long were you there in Russia?
In Russia for about, the entire trip was about 10 days. About 10 days.
About 10 days. All right. So you were there from February to
February
mid-March.
28th to about March the 9th or something.
Right. Now, there's a lot of questions I want to ask you about the trip itself and about the purpose of the trip, but obviously there's some topical questions that would come up because you're in Russia at a time when Russia is engaged in a war with the state of Ukraine.
Right.
While there in Russia, did you get any feedback from the hosts and also participants and other people, with fellow Russians themselves, about their thoughts or their viewpoints of the war? Did you see any evidence of war while in Russia?
Firstly, we were in Sochi, which is geographically far away from where the war is happening. So that's the first thing we must dispel. And Sochi is the most furthest western side of Russia, and the war is more in the north west area of Russia, between Russia and Ukraine. Did we hear people mentioning it? Yes. Ever so often, just like going somewhere and they ask what's the cost of a bottle of milk, but in this case, people is asking, well, how safe is it? What are the odds of us having to deal with something like this in this area? So yes, we heard that. We were not restricted as there were no iron fist, and we did not feel as if you were in a communist per se or some socialist. It almost as if it was more welcomed, and that level of freedom was there. If you did know you were in Russia, you may not have known you were in Russia. And you had that level of exposure, that level of freedom was not there in Russia. Did I see any evidence? One of my first attempts, or one of my first visits, were at a museum. Being at said museum, I was able to see some of the earlier missiles, some of the earlier spent shells, what's not from the war there. That. Being at the museum, I'm also able to learn about the geopolitics.
So this recent war?
Yes, this war that is presently happening.
At the museum. Okay.
So it's there. Learn about the geopolitics as well as learning from NATO then to now. Learning where Ukraine is located in between NATO and the Soviet Union. So stuff like those, you're able to learn and be able to cross-examine on your own.
Right. So basically, you've got a perspective of Russia, why they entered this conflict with Ukraine. Did that in any way? Well, first of all, let me even ask this, because as a Caribbean person, as a Kittitian going to Russia, was this something you were aware of before in terms of that perspective? And by saying that, I'm asking it in the context of, was this something you would have seen on the media, in the news media, that expression of Russia's reason for entering this conflict?
No. No. Of course, being on the Caribbean, geographically located, we are more populated by Western news, Western thought patterns, etc. So no. You will of course hear about the war, hey, Russia attacked Ukraine, and this is going on and what's not. Not realizing, hey, yes, Russia attacked Ukraine, but Russia attacked Ukraine because Russia is now thinking that NATO is getting closer to them, etc. So those parts, of course, yes, from being geographically located, haven't heard of that. Being intrigued or being someone into the news and the wider perspective of life, I try my best to say, hey, let me see this. Let me try to grab a Russia Today or some other perspective on things and be able to dialogue. Because the reality is, not everyone I meet is from this region of the world. So you have to be able to know how do you converse.
Right.
For the most part, that's about it. But nonetheless, it gives you the chance to be able to see it and now understand perspectives, not agree with perspectives, but understand perspectives, understand motives.
Right. Now, on that note, because I guess a lot of Kitishans and divisions and Caribbean people, generally speaking, when you first heard about this opportunity, you obviously jumped at it. But from the average person from the Caribbean, they might be quicker to go to Canada, the UK, the US, but to jump on an opportunity to go to Russia, especially at this time, I don't think a lot of people would want to even think about going to Russia. What were your thoughts when you first got the opportunity?
I'm an adventurous person by default, and by that people say if you were to put an abbreviation for the A in my name, it would be for adventure. I have been to different parts of the world, ideally Nairobi in 2023. And while I was there was a protest going on. There was the opposition leader's son home was raided while I was there. So you know the type of tension you're talking about. Being in a hotel that is fully guarded. You traveling with security. So I know how that goes. I did not experience none of that in Russia. So my point here is that though the media and everyone else told us that, I don't mind. As a tour guide, I hike a volcano that is considered live almost every other day. The odds of me dying from a war versus a volcano erupting, one seems higher than the other. You can do the maths. So those are things that made me jump into it. Someone else may not think of it like that. But from culture diversity, for that reason, I tell someone, hey, why not? And that was the reason why I dive into it, to be able to have a first-hand experience of that.
Right. Now, while they're in Russia, was there anything that you'd say that there was a misconception that you would have had of Russia before going there, that when going there this time around, that wasn't the case?
I would say no. Reason being is that I'm the type that love to see perspectives and then work with it. So I didn't enter into Russia knowing that or saying that, hey, Russia is the world's baddest beast or whatever. I did not enter into Russia thinking anything of that sort. I entered into it just like going to any other country. Of course, they would have some light moments. For example, seeing some persons not walking on grass. I see people walking around, using the crossing and so on. And you know, us coming from a democracy, we enjoy freedom. The people walk and
walk anywhere you want.
I'm not gonna do that. I don't want to spend the night in Russia's jail. So we.
But is it illegal to walk on grass?
It seemed as if that it was maybe not illegal, but not encouraged. Because notice if we were mainly in the Olympic Stadium or the Olympic Park. So everything is preserved. 10 years later, the park still look at just at the Olympics a few weeks ago. So maybe for those reasons, yes. But generally, no. And those small stuff, reality is we're human. We'll always have some level of preconceived notion. But in the big grand scheme of things, no.
Was there anything, and you said earlier that you didn't have any misconceptions, but for the average Kittian division and Caribbean person who are exposed to Western media, and we're looking at the war, the coverage of the war, etc., I'm sure you're probably aware of some of the thought patterns and misconceptions that people may have of Russia before going there. Did any of those that you thought other people had materialize for you in your short trip there?
No.
What are some of them you think people would have thought about that you went there and it was completely opposite?
One of the biggest pet peeve and comment that persons were saying is that Russia were looking to indoctrinate us.
Well, but I want you to hold that thought. I want you to hold that thought. We're up on a break. You're watching Newsline 360 here at TVC Channel 40. We're discussing with Janeel Boon, a young entrepreneur from St. Kitts Nevis, who recently visited Russia. We'll talk more with him about his trip when we come back after these messages.
I love the cable because they really look out for different groups of people. I'm on the creative pack, and they provide services tailored and dedicated to people just like me.
Introducing St. Kitts and Nevis's newest TV channel, Television Caribbean, TVC Channel 40 on the cable's Ultra TV. TVC promises to deliver the finest in television broadcasting in St. Kitts and Nevis and the Caribbean, with some of the best local programs in news, sports, and entertainment. Join us for Insights, where we delve into the lives of our guests.
Let me see what happened if I put this to it. Big explosion, like, okay, note to self, don't do that again.
Or get in-depth analysis on Newsline 360. We have sports, entertainment, and inspiration. It's all here on TVC Channel 40 on the cable's Ultra TV, on TelTV cable network in St. Martin, and on our website www.tvcplus.live. TVC Channel 40. See the difference.
Online radio has never been this great. It's Voice of the Caribbean Radio at voiceofthecaribbean.net. Tune into Voice of the Caribbean Radio for great Caribbean programs, news, entertainment, sports, and current affairs. Wake up each morning and be inspired with One Day at a Time with Kim Huey. Stay abreast with news across the Caribbean and internationally with the Caribbean News Hour, and be entertained with shows like Reggaeville, Caribbean Classics, and Jive Music Show. Visit our website or listen us on TuneIn Radio. There is so much more on Voice of the Caribbean Radio, reaching the Caribbean and beyond. Check website for program schedule.
The SKN Newsline website now offers you more news. Log on to www.sknnewsline.com for local, regional, and international news. You can also watch the latest newscast and keep abreast with news in sports, all from sknnewsline.com. That's www.sknnewsline.com. News at your fingertips.
I love the cable because they're real. What you see is what you get. No hidden agenda, no tricks, just real, honest communication.
And we're back here on Newsline 360. Our guest is Janeel Boon from St. Kitts and Nevis. He's an entrepreneur, and he recently visited Russia, attending the World Youth Fest. Before the break, Janeel, we were talking about the misconceptions that people here may have of Russia. When you went there, you felt that it was completely different to what people think. And you were, just before the break, you were talking about indoctrination. You felt that people here felt that you were brought on this trip, and the intention of Russia was to indoctrinate you about the Russian philosophy and why they're, engaging in this war and all of that.
Right.
Yes, so to continue from that point.
So not just felt per se, because there were some folks that were not afraid to be open and say, hey, that's what's going on. What are the odds of you not coming back and what's not? But it was funny. It was funny, to be honest. But besides that, being there though, you would then realize that was not the plan. Or if it is the plan, it's definitely not going to happen in 10 days.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much how it went. Note to self though, from being there, you were able to many conversations, whether it's a typical passerby on the street, or being at some of the museums and so on. You were able to hear Russia's voice in all that. As I said earlier, perspectives, you will hear it and see it. Not necessarily agree with it, but at least you had the opportunity of hearing and seeing things that our media may or may not have omitted. So that's pretty much how the conversation went.
Was there any expression of support for what the Russian Federation, the government was doing, what President Putin was doing in Ukraine?
People on the street, yes. Anywhere you go in the world, you will always find that level of partisan view. Even in St. Kitts, anywhere. It could be somewhere that they had the biggest oppression. People still believe that that was the best thing. And I had the privilege of being in the same room, close proximity of Putin. And he came to our closing ceremony. And listen.
Did he stay at the same hotel you were at?
No. He came in. Came in that day. And side note, when Putin comes in, as they have the saying, when Putin comes in town, self-service goes down. So we knew that, hey, he's coming. And our various attaches told us that tomorrow security is going to be higher. So leave your backpacks and leave as much things as possible, come as light as possible. Just beat the security system. And we knew that he was coming. And being in there, we then realized the love that these folks have for him. We could say what we want. By the end of the day, that's what they want. Right. Listen, when I was leaving, someone gave me a Putin shirt as a gift. I was like, what? Serious?
He's highly popular there.
But yes, and conversely though, walking across the street, you were then able to find or hear one or two persons that did not support the idea that Putin is there. Persons that had the conception that all of you are just here as a chess move and what's not. So you have that. But for the populace, more receptive. After all, we were government guests. So that to keep in mind.
Right. Now, the viewpoint I think a lot of people have of Russia as well too is that, and I think we made in a previous conversation that, Russians are angry all the time. And you see it even in movies, the Russian character is always the militant.
Their accent makes it sound
right, like they're dangerous, and there's always some danger when a Russian is in the room.
The accent.
What was it like?
The opposite for me. The opposite for me. People are far more receptive. In fact, some seem shocked to have seen black persons over there. And of course, we were the minority of the 20,000. But folks were all shocked. I had some weird experiences where someone want to touch my hair.
Yeah, I've heard about that happening before. People say they come to touch your hair.
Yeah, they be like, it's weird, and you see how the way I have my hair, and so I'm like, okay.
But and you didn't see that as a racist?
No, I was skeptical of it, and I think I only gave in like once because I was doing an interview, just like with you. I'm not sure if it was Russia Today or someone. And someone stood behind the camera the whole time. So when I look around, I'm like, what's up? I'm like, why are you standing behind me? The person was like, can I touch you here?
This is a male or female?
A female. And I was most shocked.
So this was the first time someone came to you and said that?
Yes, the first day.
Yeah.
After that, I was like, no one else. Easy.
Yeah,
It happened about 2-3 times. But the first one, that person, they waited. They waited. So like, for the wait, she was like, it's soft.
And for you, it was a genuine
request. It was a genuine request, in my opinion. Notice I've been to countries where I've had racism. I guess because I'm well traveled, I've seen cases where I'm like, you seriously just said that to me? And I just decided, hey, I'm going to be the bigger one here. And continue moving along.
So you didn't see this then as a racist?
No.
It was more like a curiosity, out of curiosity.
Correct.
So then it's a case where this person may have not seen a black person before. Or except for on TV.
Correct. Correct. Even in addition to that, someone who speaks English, that's a real case I found here in Russia. It was Russian language for the most part. Yeah. But ultimately though, the experience is far beyond those small things that could make you shift your viewpoint. It was far beyond that.
So is it fair to say, in your time there, short as it may have been, you didn't encounter any form of racism per se?
No.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the trip, about why you were there as well, because we've been talking about around the fringes. But before I get to that, coming away from Russia, having been there for the time, what was your viewpoint of Russia? What's your
coming away from it?
Yeah, your perspective of Russia.
In Russia, we saw billboards, signs, everything, especially at the Olympic Park, which they call the Youth Park, World Youth Fest. That speaks to Russia being the country of opportunity. And in Russia, I've realized that they are big on advancing their youth in particular. That's why Sirius, where we were, is considered the youngest city in Russia, the city of youth. And that left me with the perspective of opportunities. When I hear Russia since, I hear opportunities. And in being there, we're able to meet persons and realize that they're pushing further in life, especially the younger persons, the ones that don't have a view if they're not in favor necessarily of Russia attacking Ukraine, nor are they in favor of Ukraine responding or the Western world partnering or NATO or whatever. So they're more
like
genuine, more conservative. Reason being, as one person said, no, I had no choice in being born in Russia. So why should I now be sanctioned and so on like that? And so they are pushing their best. And most of those young folks, there are many universities and opportunities. They know their bachelor's, their master's, PhD, moving on those levels. Why? Because they understand that we can't just stay here on this level. We have to find ways of start thinking 2040, 2030, and push like that. And for that reason, that it gave me, as its marketing said, the country of opportunities.
Yeah. Before we go on a break, I want to get your thoughts on this because, generally speaking, and I think I asked this in the first segment about, Kitishans and Envisions having opportunities to go to some of these countries for whether it be study or work, possibly, but may not go because of the language barrier and because of the fact that it's cold and it's Russia. What would you say to someone if they had an opportunity to go to any of these countries to pursue those opportunities?
Life begins outside your comfort zone. You realize that there's always someone who knows someone or something that you don't know, that you need to know. If we start thinking that St. Kitts and Nevis in particular, 68 square miles, 36 square miles, has everything we want, then we'll be deceiving ourselves. We don't. You then realize that, hey, for example, Russia, the largest landmass in the world, if you were to be a geography student, it has some of everything you need there. If you be a political student, some of that mixed with other parts of the world. Why not? Yes, we may have English as our first language, but we realize that though the world is trying to learn it, being monolingual is a disadvantage. So we got to start learning some Espanol, start learning some French, trying our best to level up in those other ways, because some of these parts of the world will not learn English, or they will not make it a primary language for your sake. So you got to expand your boundaries. Expand. Another thing is like places like Russia, Romania, and Switzerland. The education may be generally cheaper than what we maybe know as over here, Taiwan and the others. The opportunities are there, but most persons run away from the work that have to put in that 1 year of learning a language, or the weather. I had to wear 2-3 hoodies at times, but I had to have places to go. So even though I have on a nice suit at the top, under me have on extra layers of clothes.
So you look kind of bulky. I can imagine.
So, but I had places, so I had things to do. And that the motive I think we need to have, than to just say we're gonna settle here or settle with that thought pattern.
Well, we're up on another break. You're watching Newsline 360. Our guest is Janeel Boon, an entrepreneur who recently visited Russia on an event. We'll talk more about the event when we come back after these messages.
I love the cable because they really look out for different groups of people. I'm on the creative pack, and they provide services tailored and dedicated to people just like me.
And we're back for the final segment of Newsline 360. On this edition, we're speaking to Janeel Boon, entrepreneur from St. Kitts and Nevis, who recently visited Russia at an event known as World Youth Fest. And that event we're going to talk more about. Now we've spoken about a lot of fringes about your visit to Russia. So we want to now focus on the event itself. Firstly, what were some of the activities? What was the purpose of the event? And what were some of the things you did?
Purpose of the event, from my vantage point, was networking. And 20,000 young persons ranging ages 14 to about 38 or so, all in one space. 10,000 from Russia, 10,000 from outside of Russia, all combining to share our thoughts, ideas, and so on. Most of us are leaders in our own rights, whether it's CARICOM Youth Ambassador, whether it is an entrepreneur, and whether it's government officials. I saw younger government officials, especially from Africa, that were there. So we are all leaders in some ways, whether even it's social media or what's not. We were in that. When you look at the accolades of some of the folks there, you're like, oh, I understand. So the main purpose of that was networking and building that ecosystem for the individual. Beyond that, it was a chance to, as mentioned for the whole interview, see Russia from your lights, or hear Russia's voice. So though the war and though the sanctions and everything were not a topic in front of you, it was a topic that was still in the room. You ever so often you hear it, ever so often you see it, and the conversation went ahead with that. And also beyond that, cultural exchange. And 20,000 persons in one space, and culture alone is so big, everybody still combining and connecting. The cultural exchange was a big deal. And whether it's me connecting with a fellow Caribbean person, or being the only person from St. Kitts telling the other 19,999 about this space, or whether it's someone from a bigger country meeting someone else that they have met before at another event, and you had that. All of these things took place in that area. Or whether it's experiencing like Rosa Peak, where I got to go to 8,000 feet, twice my volcano height, seeing snow mountain and what's not. Or somebody seeing seawater for the first time. And it seems simple, but when you hear those type of stuff, you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah. I could imagine.
So it was far beyond just the typical conference. And of course, there were conferences, lectures, etc. all the time. Because 20,000 persons, all of us were not in the same sessions all the time. They were simultaneously. They started about 7 o'clock, 7:30 most days. And by 11 o'clock, we're still out, just moving from one session to the other. Because the adrenaline, you are hearing slogans such like, tomorrow start today, let's build the future together. So you really get that type of momentum, that type of dopamine going through your body. Say, hey, let me just impact, let me do something. And that's what happened.
One thing I probably should have asked, what was the food like in Russia?
Being at a hotel, a world-class hotel, with so many persons, maybe a good 500 persons in my hotel alone. The food was more of those standard travel food. But of course, you find a corner that had some of different cultures. So you pick from some of them. On the streets, I don't remember seeing much fast food, to be honest.
I would imagine because of the sanction,
right.
Some of the fast food that we're accustomed to were not there.
Correct. Not though. There were some of the franchises were there, but just in different names. But they still gave it. When you look inside, you see the setup. You're like, oh, this franchise.
Okay. So they still maintain just the name, the brand itself.
Correct. So stuff like that. However, though, the food for the most part, it was completely different to what I've experienced. But traveling so much, you get so accustomed to trying new food most places, or you kind of stick to the vegetables and the fruits.
So of course you had the event. Now, of course, I suspect that you had entities and persons who would have assisted you to go. So if you could just speak to that.
So firstly, I want to say thanks to family members, spouse, communities that came on board and say, hey, I'm giving you permission to leave. Beyond all the skepticism, say thanks. But I also want to say thanks to the Tourism Authority for giving me souvenirs because it was important. Branding was important. I partnered with a few other companies over Port Zante as well that I tried most days, with the exception of a suit, that I was branded in St. Kitts and Nevis attire as much as I can. So thanks to them, and also thanks to Gian Williams, who gave me one of her books about miscarriage. And I was able to put that book on a Russian bookshelf. It's a tradition once you visit, you place something of your country, generally a book, on that shelf. And someone else will take it and hopefully take somewhere else around the world. So I do hope that book can become a resource for someone somewhere. I also want to say thanks to Sun Island Clothing, who partnered with you guys so my national wear as well. So thanks to anyone else that partnered in some behind the scenes that we were, credit, etc. Say huge thank you. But while I'm here, I also want to say Spasiba Rosova. I think that means thank you, Russia.
Wow.
If I messed up, forgive me. But I want to say thank you to Russia for giving the opportunity to have an all expense paid trip to Russia. If someone do the research, it's not cheap. To be able to say you've been there for 10 days, the entire trip, you have to worry about anything at all. It's a plus, and I say a huge thank you. I do tell anyone else, take the opportunity once it do come. Take it. It may look different than the usual, but take it. And if another one comes tomorrow, Huey,
you're taking it. Of course.
Yes,
to learn and to meet.
I'm taking it. And it's not for me, even though I may be the first recipient. It's not for me. I can now encourage someone else who's watching me, my country, my community. Hey, that opportunity that I may meet, people I may meet, can now eventually come and trickle down on you, and so on. And that, for sure, I'm grateful for.
Yeah. Well, we'll leave it right there, Janeel. Thank you so much, Janeel Boon, entrepreneur here from St. Kitts Nevis, recently attended World Youth Fest in Russia, talking to us about his experience there. Thank you, the viewers, for watching Newsline 360. I was your host, Andre Huie. Remember, you can watch this program again on demand by visiting our website, www.tvcplus.live. From all of us here at TVC Channel 40, I'm Andre Huie. Thank you for watching another edition of Newsline 360.